Good evening. We're John and Paula Lehn. We're members of a church here at Koinonia. My background is I've been working in employment and training and job creation for about 30 years.
And as he said, I'm Paula Lehn, and I currently am at Fast Credit Union and also, of course, attend church here at Koinonia. And the one thing that we like to also talk about during this particular class is this isn't our first marriage. And so we have been in your seats before, starry-eyed and full of love and wonder and thinking nothing could ever change that. Yet life happens and some issues come about, and if you're not prepared and you're not communicating and you're not sharing and you're not doing those type of things, then there's those opportunities for a wedge to be driven in, and that's where we come in talking about finances. They are major issues in any relationship, and as you are embarking on putting your lives together, finances are a major component, and sharing that information and determining how you're going to proceed with your finances will make a big difference, we believe, based on experiences from, again, being in your chair and then being in your chair once more.
Roger, last week, talked to you about how to fight. Well, this is week 4, and we're going to give you the topic that most people fight to the end about, and that is money. Unfortunately, money and money problems are one of the things that really cause significant issues with marriages, and ultimately as the demise of many of them. So we're going to talk to you tonight about a number of things that you might be able to do to prevent that from happening to you. What I'd like to do is just start in prayer and just we bow our heads. Lord, we are so happy that these couples are getting together. Lord, we feel a special blessing on this particular couple that is watching this video. We know that they have come to seek your face and to do your works. Lord, we would just ask for your special blessing and the recognition that they see in each other what you see in each of us. Lord, that's all we can ask for, and we ask this in your precious Son's name. Amen. So here we are in the financial piece section. We're going to talk about communication styles, something called a nerd and a free spirit. Talk about sharing, because really sharing is probably, sharing and communication can be considered probably a topic for every one of these sessions. And we're just going to be simply talking about that relating to money. Talking about what is important to you, your priorities individually and then collectively. And we'll spend a moment sort of surveying that and giving you a chance to talk to each other about those things. Take out the financial priorities handout that you've been provided. And what we'd like for you to do is to be thinking about for your particular priorities, what is it that's most important to you? On the sheet, you'll see that it's a rank ordered from 1 to 10, the 10 being the lowest and the 1 being the highest priority to you. So what I'd like for you to do is to take a few moments and fill that out. You can then exchange that, if you would, and read it a couple of times. One, just kind of from the visual standpoint, from your brain, and then secondly from your heart. And we would ask for you not to say anything until you've done that, and after you've exchanged and completed that, then come back together, and we'll see you in a few minutes.
Okay, so now you guys have had the opportunity to complete the financial priorities checklist. Individually, you ranked it 1 to 10, and your future spouse ranked theirs 1 to 10, and then you took a few moments to compare to see if your priorities are similar, are they different, and where you're going to go from there. Because we have seen in numerous groups that we've worked with that there are some couples that have the same priorities and it's very close, especially the top 1, 2, and 3. And then others have completely different priorities. And the one reason we really like this simple form is as you guys become a couple and you become one, your priorities need to also do the same. And if you understand where you're coming from and where the other person's coming from and how they're viewing and determining how money might be spent or where you want to work or how different things want to proceed, when you understand each other and you can move forward together, then it creates a better marriage, it creates a better foundation and a stronger support system. So I hope you got a little bit out of that. It'll be something that you can take after the class and again look at. And these priorities change depending on your age, depending on your background and where you're at. You may even want to bring it out in another year, a couple years, 5 years, and do it again and just see that you guys see if you both are still on the same page.
Put it in your wedding album, bring it
go.
out in 5 years, right?
There you go.
The next thing we want to do is we want to go to a video that's been produced by Dave Ramsey. It's part of the Financial Peace University program that is offered here in Koinonia. It's a 13-week program, and it really it's that set of skills that we wish we all had when we were in high school or maybe even prior, because frankly it would make millionaires out of every one of us. And while having money is not necessarily the goal of why God put us on earth, it certainly allows us to bless others. And so it's much easier to be here with a little money. So we'll let Dave Ramsey talk to you a bit about that, about money, about different communication styles, how men and women communicate differently about money. And frankly, I think one of the things that really sticks with me is just how important money and the security of money is to women.
When we're dealing with money in relationships, when we're dealing with money in our personal lives, when we're dealing with money in our families, the flow of money in a family represents the value system under which that family operates. Jesus said it this way. He said, where your treasure is, your heart will be also. So what you do with money screams loudly who you are. Larry Burkett used to say it's kind of the checkbook autobiography. Back in the days when we used to keep a checkbook, or if you keep it on Quicken or something, if you look at your checkbook register, where your money goes tells us what's important to you, tells you what's important to you. And men and women are different in how we process this stuff. We're different in how we process everything, and money is no exception to that statement. Gary Smalley says men love to share facts. Women love to share feelings. Men connect by doing things. Guys go hunting together. We do things together. We work on the car together. We do whatever. We do things together. Women connect by talking. Guys can hang out all day. My son and I drove 2.5 hours after a football game home and didn't say a word, and we were perfectly okay with that. Women would have thought that was psychotic. We operate differently. We're perfectly okay with these differences too. Dennis Rainey, who is a Christian family counselor, marriage counselor, has a wonderful radio show. He says that women and men have a different verbal level. Men speak 30 to 50,000 words a day. Women speak somewhere from 50 to 70,000 words a day, with gusts up to 125,000. We are different. Gary Smalley says men tend to be controlling. Women tend to remain agreeable. Women would say amen. Men tend to be independent. Women tend to be interdependent. Another great thing to read if you've ever gotten married or ever thought about getting married is John Gray's book, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. And he talks about the differences of men and women. He says, men define ourselves by our ability to achieve results, where women, on the other hand, tend to define themselves by the quality of their relationships. And all these differences come up big time in the way we handle money and the way we interact. And so we've got to take this into consideration if we want to have financial peace, two words that don't go together. When it comes to the emergency fund, men say it's boring, it's not sophisticated enough. I could do something better with that $10,000 or $15,000 in baby step 3, which is a fully funded emergency fund of 3 to 6 months of expenses. I could invest that in a good mutual fund or something, but Dave says just to put it in a money market account and it not make much money. That's boring, it's not sophisticated enough. Women, on the other hand, say it's the most important key to our financial plan. It's the most important key to our financial plan. I need all the men in the room to stand up, please. All the men to stand up, please. Thank you, men. Now, guys, if you're married or you ever hope to be, listen to me really carefully for a minute. I don't know if you know this or not, but as we've been discussing, men and women are different. And that's a good thing. And they're different in how we look at this emergency fund thing. There are 2 things we're going to teach you while you go through Financial Peace University that will revolutionize your marriage if you allow it to. One of them is the emergency fund, and the other is doing a budget. And we're going to talk about both of those things tonight in the context of singles and in the context of a marriage situation. So guys, what I got to get you to understand right now is somewhere right down in here, your lady has a gland that you don't have. It's called the security gland. And if she is feeling insecure because of the money situation, that gland spasms. And it is attached to her face. So an emergency fund is actually an investment in a pretty wife. Her face relaxes because her security gland relaxes. When you have $10,000 or $15,000 in the bank and you know that you're not going to touch it, and she knows that you're not going to touch it, you don't even touch the emergency fund for emergencies. It allows her to relax in a place you don't even have. Am I right, ladies? So the message, guys, is you don't have to get it. You just got to get it. You need to do that emergency fund, and it's an investment in your marriage. Thanks, guys. Have a seat. And if you look carefully at the screen, guys, you're going to see what will happen if you do not get an emergency fund. When it comes to going shopping, men get good deals by negotiating. I can go in, I want those deals. I want to go out there and I'm just going to walk through the electronics store, the furniture store, and I'm going to kill everybody in the store until I get a good deal. I don't have to go shopping. I'm just going to drop an atom bomb on that one place. I'm going in there, I'm going to go, I want a deal, right? And I'm going to use all my techniques, and I'm going to get in people's face. I'm going to do whatever. I'm going to negotiate. I'm going to get a deal. We get good deals by, a lot of times, just straight old-fashioned confrontation. Where ladies tend to get good deals by hunting and hunting and hunting and hunting and hunting and hunting. And they forgot what they were looking for, but they're still hunting. You know, we went to a marriage conference a long time ago, and the guy did a really good job. And he did have one suggestion, though, that was honestly, it was just stupid. He said, if you want to have some real intimacy with your wife and really have some high quality communication, go shopping with her, guys. This is not a smart man. He is not a smart man. I mean, you think about it. I'm up here for 5 or 6 hours. It doesn't bother me a bit. My feet don't hurt. I can go all day. I've got plenty of energy. I get out of the car, walk into the mall, my feet hurt to my neck. I mean, what's up with that? I don't understand how that works, but that's how it works, isn't it? And Smalley talks about this. He says, here's how a shopping trip looks like for most people. You know, we get out of the car and we go to this mall together, or we're going somewhere. We're going to go get something together, right? And the guy gets out of the car and says, identify the target. You know, we're going to get our handheld GPS and map out the quickest way to the store. And we're going to go straight to the store with the best deal, having searched on the web while we're on our way for efficiency. And we get in there, we get the best deal, we analyze which line is going the fastest, and in the cash register, we get in line, we go through the most efficient line, we're back to the car, let's time it, go, click. Identify the target. And the lady goes, whoa, 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 you just don't get this, do you? See, we're supposed to enjoy this process. It's not just about the task, it's the process. We have to go in every store. We have to touch everything in every store. We have to try a whole lot of it on, buy most of it, discuss the checkout girl's family problems with her as we're going out, and then tomorrow we're going to bring most of it back. So Sharon and I figured this deal out. We're not going to try to swim upstream, okay? We know that we're not going shopping together and have a good marriage. That's not going to happen. But we have figured out she's really good at hunting. And hunting and hunting. She'll go through Consumer Reports, she'll search on the web and look at eBay, and she'll go find the best deal over here and the best sale over there. And then I'm really good at negotiating, so much so that when we go out, she's kind of a sweet, Southern Belle little lady. And she doesn't like to be embarrassed. And we go in some of these stores with me with my $100 bills out, and she goes, "You embarrass me." I'm going, yeah, well, that's just one of the side benefits of this negotiating thing. So we just don't even try all of that. What we figured out is she hunts it down, then I go kill it. So we're going to work with these opposites thing and make it work. When it comes to financial problems, we see the difference in men and women. When we're struggling financially, if you're hurting and you're stressed out, you're behind on the bills, the guys lose self-esteem. Men lose self-esteem because money represents a scorecard to men. So ladies, listen carefully. If you're in here and you're married or you're in a marriage situation and you're struggling financially, your guy does not feel like Sir Galahad right now. His sword is a little rusty. He has some moss on his armor. And the last thing he needs in the middle of that is a barking chihuahua around his ankles. My mama said, he may find one last use for that sword. Guys, you need to look at this. When you're in financial trouble, women face fear. Sharon made us change it. She said the word is terror. Because money with ladies, as we said, represents security. There's that security gland. So if you're in here and you're struggling financially, don't let the stress of those financial things take your marriage. Guys, you need to step up. She needs an extra 3 to 6 non-sexual hugs a day. Some of you guys need to look up non-sexual. This is touch that's not going anywhere. Touch for the purpose of reassurance. Touch that says, when we got married, we didn't have anything. If we go back to not having anything, that'll be okay as long as I'm with you. I don't want to lose everything, but if I do, as long as we come out of this together, we're going to be okay. Touch says that. And you need to say that out loud, guys, because she's afraid in a place you don't have at that moment. She's not weaker than you. They're actually more resilient, ladies are, in financial stress than guys are in a lot of ways. But they need that touch. They need that reassurance as a part of the program. So step up, gentlemen, in that situation. Now, the number one cause of divorce in North America today is money fights. Money is the one thing people say they argue about the most in marriage, according to a Stanley and Markman study. 7 out of 10 couples disagree about financial issues, according to an article in USA Today. 57% of divorced couples said that financial disputes were the primary reason they did not get along, according to a study done by Citibank. It's the number one thing that breaks up marriages. Hear me again. The number one thing that breaks up marriages, money problems and money fights. If it's the number one problem, then it's also what Larry Burkett used to say, it's the number one opportunity in our marriages to take them to a better level, to take a good marriage and make it fabulous, to take one that's struggling and looks like it's not going to make it and bring it back together and let it heal. And you can do that through stuff like doing a budget, like agreeing on our spending, because when we agree on our spending, again, we're agreeing on our value system, and that is absolutely vital. See, the deal is this. When you get married, what happens is, the preacher lies to us, doesn't he? He says, and now you are one. You remember that? Do you remember the first year? Yeah, your mama's ugly too. You remember the first year, right? See, so when we do, we go down the aisle, dun, 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 right? And the preacher comes down and he says, okay, we're going to tie the knot, right? Well, when we get ready to tie that knot, the problem is stuff gets in the knot, doesn't it? And you grew up in a household where your parents spent everything they made. And she grew up in a household where they saved everything they made. And that was cute when you were dating. And it's not cute anymore. It becomes a potential destructive force. There's a knot going on right there in the money, and it's, I want to save money, I want to give money, I want a new washer and dryer, I want a bass boat, I want to go on vacation, I'm worried about retirement. Dave Ramsey said, and we get all of that in there, right? Every bit of that's in there, right? And you get this whole thing going on. But what we have discovered is this. If you will sit down together, if you will learn to work together, agree on your spending, because when you agree on your spending, again, you agree on your value system, you're agreeing on your goals, you're agreeing on your dreams, you're even agreeing on your fears. And so when you agree on all of that, what happens is the budget takes all the knots out of your marriage, and you get oneness in your marriage and unity. See, what happens is, Dennis Rainey says we get married, and one of us has a floor plan for a two-story, and that's our value system and how we're going to build a house. Another has a floor plan for a tri-level, and that's our value system and how we're going to build a house. If we don't get together and change that blueprint to where it looks like it's the same blueprint, we build a pretzel. When you agree on your value system, you will reach a level of unity in your marriage. But if that doesn't work, you can always adopt that international sign of money in marriage. So who does the financial decision making in your household? Who's supposed to do it? Some people say, well, the man should do it. And other people say, women are much smarter, they should do it. The truth is, both of you should do it. Both of you should do the financial decision making. Both of you have to. The one with the natural gift for details can prepare the budget, but the decision making should be done by both of you. Now, typically, not only do opposites attract in the sense of men and women are different, but opposites attract in other things too. One of you is late for everything, and the other one is on time. Have to be on time for everything. You have to be early for everything. One of you was up at 6 o'clock in the morning going, we have to get over there, we want to get a good seat. We have to get over there, I want to get a good parking place. Did you see the parking? Oh, I've got to get a good seat. And the other one's going, look, they're not going to really say anything important for the first hour anyway. You know? It's that way at our house. I have to be on time for everything. I'm like the nerd of the family, right? My wife, it doesn't matter. She'll get there sometime. It's okay. And, you know, when our kids were little, we lose our religion getting ready for church. I'm like, by the time we get there, Jesus is going to be gone. And one Sunday, she used this line that Steve and Annie Chapman, friends of ours that do ministry to the family, use. Steve's got a great sense of humor, and she used it on me. She said, this Sunday, why don't we trade places? You get the kids ready, and I'll go out in the driveway and honk the horn. Opposites attract. One of you's in here burning up right now, and the other one's freezing to death. You ever have those thermostat wars at your house? It's not cold. Yes, it is. It's not cold. Yes, it is. And back and forth. I threatened to get one of those locking glass things over it like you have at the office, you know? Just keep your hands off of it. The concept of a thermostat is it adjusts itself, you know? And no, I'm hot, no, I'm cold. And we're back and forth, opposites attract. One of you is a spender, one of you is a saver. And that's a good thing. You need each other. You spenders need a saver in your life so you don't retire and have to buy that cookbook, 72 Ways to Prepare Alpo, and love it. You savers need a spender in your life so you have a life. And typically what happens is the nerd, the one that is very organized, you know, the detail person, the underwear drawer is folded, must be on time, everything has a place, really enjoys for the bills to be paid on time. Late, oh, don't give me a late charge. Oh. How many of you are like me? I'm a nerd at my house. Or if you're the nerd at your house, raise your hand. Come on, be proud, nerds. Come on. You know, nerds are very precise. They're having to think about this for a moment. Maybe I am a nerd, and I wouldn't want to have a problem with my integrity. I'll have to think this through, you know. But nerds are very, very precise people, right? We have to have things the way they're supposed to be. That's the way it's supposed to be. And I want my shirt tail to be tucked in just right. I looked in the mirror before I came out here. It's not perfect, and it's bothering me. You know, that's the way it is with nerds, right? That's how you do things. So the nerd likes doing the budget. It gives them this sense of power, this sense of control. Some nerds are real big-time control freaks, but all nerds are at least a little bit a control freak. You know what I'm saying? And we're actually going to introduce some folks to you. We're going to introduce the nerd. We've arranged to have a nerd visit with us tonight, and a free spirit too for that matter. But first, let me introduce you to our nerd for the evening. Dan is our nerd for the evening. Come out, Dan. That's funny, ha ha. My team thinks that we need to dress the nerd like me. That's cute, guys. That's very cute, guys. I really like that. Now, thank you very much. All right, and the free spirit is the one that they don't feel cared for. We nerds think we're caring for everyone. The free spirit instead feels controlled. They feel told what to do. The free spirit is like, how many of you in here are free spirits? Raise your hand. See, they always start a wave. Woohoo! You know, they didn't hesitate. Yeah, baby, we're free spirit. Yeah, when's the break? Give me some refreshments. I'm a free spirit. You know, and I'm sure glad this thing's funny. I was afraid it was going to be boring. You know, this is the free spirit, right? And the free spirit, they're mature. They're adults too. They just believe in having a thing called a life. They don't really get a high out of 3-generation spreadsheets. They don't understand. You know. They don't want to click the third tab over, and they don't want to spend hours and hours and hours looking at the details. They want to vote. They want to be part of the program. And Susan is going to be our free spirit for the evening. Come out, Susan. Y'all give Susan a big round of applause. So what happens is the nerd and the free spirit get married, but they don't really become one, do they? No. Instead, we start this fight thing, because the first thing that'll happen is the nerd goes, oh no, I've married one of those. And what do? You know, we go up on the mountain and we talk to God about the budget. And we come down from the mountain having prepared the budget on a stone tablet, a little bit of a sunburn, like Charlton Heston, and you know, we come out and we come to the free spirit and the rest of the family, say, family, I've been talking to God, and this is our budget. This is what we nerds do, isn't it? And the free spirit goes, yeah, I'll look at that when I get back from Home Depot or Victoria's Secret. I'm going to the mall to bust your budget. And the nerd goes, oh, no. And we nerds, if we're not careful, we're like running around with a pooper scooper all the time trying to clean up your all's messes. And the free spirit's going, you are a freak, you know? Get away from me, you Fruit Loop. You know, and this fight, this constant tension, some marriages go through this. This is real world, isn't it? Say yes. Yes. Some marriages go through this for decades and don't even realize there's all this tension in the air. They kind of just tolerate it, or they go to their corners and go, okay, you pay your bills and I'll pay my bills. We're not really married. We're just going to have a joint venture. And the nerd's like, you're too irresponsible. And the free spirit's like, you're too controlling. And we're just... all this clash of the titans going on. And it doesn't make for a high-quality marriage. As a matter of fact, we just said this, it's the #1 cause of divorce. As opposites attract, and men and women are different anyway, when you put all of that in the soup with money, it makes a mess. But we figured out a way to solve it. It's called the budget committee meeting. It's your only hope for learning how to communicate. So here's what we're going to do. Those of you that are like me, and Dan, we're the nerds. Raise your hand, nerds. Okay. See, the nerds are like very precise. Right? So nerds, raise your hand again one more time. Good. All right, nerds. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to do a budget. In the super saving lesson, when we said go home and do the quickie budget, you almost had it done before you got out of the parking lot. And you've already read 3 or 4 chapters ahead, and you know what I'm going to be saying next because you'd rather skip over the jokes and get to the point. Okay? And you're already filling out the evaluation in the back, you know? And you were told not to already, you know, but you can't help yourself. That kind of a thing, right? That's the nerd. So go ahead and prepare the budget, because if we wait on the free spirits, it's not going to happen. Let's not kid ourselves, okay? So prepare the budget, and we're going to teach you in the budgeting lesson how to do that. But the basics of budgeting is you spend every dollar on paper before the month begins. Every dollar has a name before the month begins. You prepare the budget. Now, then we call the budget committee meeting. Let's cover the rules for the budget committee meeting for the nerds first. Nerd, I want you to take the budget that you prepared, and I want you to set it on the table, slide it over to the free spirit, and shut up. That is rule #1. Shut up. The free spirits hear them. They are sick and tired of your preaching. They are sick of hearing, yeah, you got it. They're sick and tired of hearing Dave Ramsey say it. They're sick and tired of every mistake they ever made since 1962. You know, they don't want to hear any more of your theories. Shut up. It's on the paper. Slide it over. You've got a whole lot of opinions. They're right there on the paper. Let the free spirit look at it. Rule #2, nerds, is this is a meeting. It is not a weekend-long budget summit. When you are dealing with a free spirit, you have a 17-minute window. After that, there came to the Financial Peace University thing. Their body may stay, but their spirit will leave. They're not going to hang out with you. Their eyes start to cross. They're not getting this. It's not fun for them. They don't enjoy this process. They're only there to have a vote. They're going to have their vote, and they're going to leave the voting booth. That's it. That's the whole deal from them. Now listen very, very carefully to me. If you are a nerd, there is one last rule, nerds. Listen very, very carefully. You must insist that the free spirit change some things in your budget. And the nerds are going, no! We don't want to change anything. It's right. If we change it, it will be wrong. I did it. It's right. We can't change it. Listen, nerds, we're tricking them to get them involved. All right, free spirits, raise your hand. All right, did I take up for you? Say yes. All right, so listen up, free spirits. You have a couple of rules for the budget committee meeting too. Rule number one, free spirits, you must come to the meeting. Rule number two, you must bring your brain. You have to give adult, mature input in the meeting. I want one isn't covered under that heading. You look at the budget and you go, honey, I think $1,800 might be a little high for green fees when we have $14 for food. And you make an adjustment there, like switching those two numbers. But you can't just go, I want more money for clothes. Okay, we're going to raise clothing by $200. That's fine, honey. Where's the $200 going to come from? I don't care. Who are you, the government? It has to come from somewhere, right? If we're going to raise a category by 200, we have to lower some others by the same amount. That's how this works. It balances. It's a neat concept, okay? So adult-like input says you change some things around by raising a few and lowering some others by that same amount so that we still end up with a zero. And rule number three, free spirits, if you will work with your nerds on this, you will have the best quality relationship of any marriage you know. You will run into people everywhere who are in awe of the communication level in your marriage. It will totally transform how you communicate. It will bring a level of unity, a level of oneness to everything that you're doing, and then you'll start to win financially. It's worth it. But free spirits, there's a phrase that you have been saying. This is your last rule. You can never again say this phrase. And you use it all the time. We know you do, especially we nerds know it. Sometimes you say things like, whatever you want to do, honey. Wrong cop-out breath. You have to get in the game and place your vote. You both have a vote. We come into agreement. That's called unity. Both place their vote. No, just...
You're smarter than me. You take care of it. I'm going to go over here and mess up your plan, though.
And that's what free spirits do too often. No, you've got to place your vote, and then when the budget is done, we pinky swear and we spit shake, and this is a lock, baby. We don't do anything except what's on the budget. That is a promise. That's a contract. And if we're going to do something different than what's on that budget, we have to come back and have an emergency budget committee meeting. Got it, free spirits? Say yes. Yes. All right, give Dan and Susan, our free spirits and our nerds, a hand. They're now working together.
Hopefully you enjoyed Dave Ramsey's humor and the information that he presented. We've been doing Financial Peace, helping coordinate the class now for quite a number of years, and not only has it made a difference in our lives, we've been blessed to be able to see the difference that it has made in a lot of other people's lives. And the one thing that when we're going through the 13-week program and we talk about this particular topic relating with money, we bring up about the premarital classes and you know, how we have the opportunity to help facilitate those, and the continual comments that are made from the group in the FPU classes. Boy, we wish we had that before we were married. We wish we knew some of these things because, as John talked about earlier, The number one reason couples fight is because of money, and it's often, even if they're not fighting about money, it's the root of a lot of the fights because of somebody being angry or hurt or not connecting as to where the priorities are and whatnot. And so we really encourage you to put a lot of thought and process into that. Think about what Dave talked about with the nerd and free spirit. Typically in a relationship like Dave talked about, one's a nerd, one's a free spirit. But all of us have a little bit of both of those usually in us. John is both a nerd and a free spirit, and I have a little bit of that, but I will say I'm probably more of the nerd than he is. So sometimes he has to remind me to get a life, as Dave mentioned. But what this video brings out a lot, and John made mention to, is the fact that men and women do see things differently. And we need to understand that and appreciate that difference and know that each person brings something to the table to make it well and make the bond stronger. And if we understand, women, if we understand how men communicate and what they're looking for, and if men understand what women are looking for, then we can communicate better, we can achieve our goals, and understand each other better and prevent some of those fights or disagreements. And we have a handout that you'll be given that talks about even the differences of men and women in the workplace. And it seems a little odd to have that kind of a handout in a premarital class, but it was such a good handout when we first got it, and it really talks about not only are men different in how they view things, but psychologically, physiologically, we're all different. Men, as Dave referenced, speak fewer words than women, no surprise there. But this article even talks about how men listen and hear differently, even physiologically. There's a big word for you, physiologically, that a man hears different tones than a woman, and men typically don't look eye to eye. They often look and speak when, like John and I are sitting here, and often women will say, well, were you even listening to me? Did you hear what I said? And typically they hear everything we say, but because they're not looking one-on-one with us, they're not nodding, they're not we think they're not listening, and that's not fair to them that we're judging them when they, in essence, usually are listening and wanting to be active in those conversations. So there's some real interesting information on that article, kind of goes with the information Dave presented, and learn about each other, talk to each other, and that is what we're trying to really encourage on the financial priorities, to bring that out that you did earlier on that worksheet. Bottom line, you guys need to be sharing your bills. How much money do you bring in? How much money goes out? What are your balances out there? What do you owe on a car loan? What do you owe on credit cards? What do you owe mom and dad from a loan, or grandma that you borrowed a long time ago that you need to pay back? Those are things that you both need to know going into your marriage, so that you can determine, when those incomes come together, how to budget and how to prioritize with those with that money. Oftentimes we'll hear, when we talk to couples that are getting ready to get married, they haven't shared that information, and one of the best ways to do that is by accessing your credit report, and you can do that annually free. And that really helps, because maybe you forgot a bill, or maybe there's something incorrect on that credit report. But both of you can go in, both of you can access your credit report, and then you guys need to sit down and go over it and really understand if maybe you guys both have perfect credit and everything's great. Maybe one person has some challenges on their credit, and you need to talk about that. You need to understand that your future spouse has the right to know that, and that will help them be able to help you work with the budget and figure out how to correct any wrongs, or how to deal with some past issues that you may have out there. Even down to, you do not get your credit score free, and you do not have to get your credit score, but if for any reason you do know it, share that and talk about that goes along with your credit report. Again, all of those things are very important. If marriages are failing because of finances, then this is the opportunity to say, we're not going to be one of those failures, and we're going to be very proactive, and we're going to be open and honest. And bottom line, as John mentioned earlier, really a lot of it is strictly just communication. We shouldn't have things that we're hiding. We shouldn't have fear or any of those things. And this is a topic that oftentimes we just forget to talk about before we get married. And then as things start coming out, we're like, oh, here everything is. And sometimes that doesn't work to the best for everybody involved. So communicate, be open, understand each other, have a lot of respect for each other, and put these things together so that you're able to continue through your engagement and then the wedding, and bringing those incomes together to budget it appropriately.
One of the things that Dave talked about, he had mentioned baby steps, and there are a number of baby steps. And I think oftentimes what we do is we'll talk about the 13 weeks of financial peace and the various topics we'll talk about, anywhere from insurance to real estate, and hopefully if you enjoyed that portion of the clip for relating with money, that you may want to consider taking the whole series. And that's typically offered by us, by the church, twice a year, most oftentimes in about August, and then again in January. So you may want to think and pray about that, and see if that seems to make sense to you. One of the things that people often want to do is get out of sequence, as Dave might say. With the first step being the emergency fund. We would just encourage you to take a look at those steps and try it to the best that you can to stay in that same sequence in terms of your financing, and making sure that you have that emergency fund before you go and start doing things like investing, or starting on the college fund, or anything like that for a small one if you might have one in your family. Paul talked a lot about communication, and really I think the whole issue of finances is one we typically don't talk about with anybody. And that's, I guess, the real value of this individual that God's put into your life, is that He's put them there so that you can be completely transparent, you can be completely open, as you cannot be with anyone else in the world. That person is so special that we really encourage you to get out of your comfort zone as you're talking about money. Begin to bring up things that you're not familiar with. Talk about the budgeting, and come clean in terms of which one should be doing the first draft of the budget before you get together on your budget committee meeting, and really start to refine it. So both of you have a responsibility and a right to weigh in with your desires in terms of the budget, and how you'll utilize your money.
People often think of a budget as, I think Dave Ramsey, kind of as a straitjacket or a punishment. In fact, he doesn't even call it often a budget, he calls it cash flow. And what we have found, again, through our own experience, as well as working with literally hundreds of other people, the budget actually takes the pressure off people, because you only have so much money. Whatever that amount is, $100, $1,000, $10,000, you only have so much money. And when you come together and you determine where it's going to go, then it takes the pressure off when I want to go to the store, of me thinking, well, John said I can't spend that much money. Or if he wants to go buy a new tool at Lowe's or Home Depot, he's thinking she won't let me spend. It's not about he said, she said. It's about what we determined when we came together and said, we have this much money, and this is where we're going to be able to spend it. And things like having what he calls a blow fund are very important. So each one of you have a little bit of money that you can do with whatever you want and not feel guilty about, and gives you a little that freedom. Because really the budget is to create freedom, so that you don't feel restricted, so that we know going in how much money we have and where we need to spend it, what bills we have to pay. And if we're not straddled, if we're not feeling that pressure of debt, or a bill not being paid, or experiencing late fees or collection calls, those type of things, then the pressure, we don't have that pressure on our marriage. And if that pressure is not there, then we don't have as much stress. And then if that stress isn't there, we're not as likely to fight. And then again, we just kind of backtrack, because again, the fights come from finances and from what's happening with our money. And last week it was said that Roger taught him how to fight and to fight really well. Well, you know, if you have that budget, you might not have to exercise some of those skills that he gave you last week. But if you don't, you might want to get and refresh your notes on week 3. We recommend that you go to daveramsey.com. You may have seen him. He's on Fox Business News cable channel. He has his own syndicated radio show. He's on several radio channels now, even in our area. Very popular. And there's no magic formula, as he says. It's not a microwave, it's a crock pot. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme. It's not anything that you need to sell and get commission and, get all your friends and neighbors involved in helping you make all this money. It's nothing like that. Bottom line is you understand how much money you have and you spend less than you make, and you plan for it. And by following his steps and doing that, we've done it for enough years that we have seen it has proven to really work. Because if you get into it, if you do have credit card debt, if you do have cars that you owe on and you want to get those loans paid off, oftentimes people will think that I have to pay off the debt with the highest interest rate regardless of the amount. And as Dave says, he says, he takes it by the smallest debt first, and people will say, oh, but that's not mathematically correct. And his answer to that is, if we were doing good mathematics, we wouldn't have had debt in the first place. And what it is behavior. It's getting those little debts out of the way, getting those taken care of, coming together as a couple and committing to doing those things. Financial peace isn't just for people that are in debt. You learn about insurance and college funding for those who have children. Even the rest of this Relating with Money video that you didn't have the opportunity to finish talks about kids and how to work with your children and teach them responsibility and rewards, and how to get them to understand that mom and dad aren't an ATM, that every time that they need money, they just pull out a credit card, or they go to the ATM and money just miraculously appears. And so it talks about all of those type of things that impact every single person that we've ever known, and definitely in our country. And again, as I mentioned earlier, people always say in our classes, boy, I wish we had known this going into the marriage. We also hear time and time again, and we've said it a million times, I wish we had known this when we were younger. So for those of you that are out there that are young, you really have an opportunity to do the things the right way the first time. If you are more experienced, let's say, as John and I are, and maybe didn't do everything right the first time, this gives you the opportunity to learn how to do it and change the behavior, and which isn't always easy. It's not always easy. As John says, about communicating and being open and taking that step to be able to trust that person with everything from your life to your finances. And sometimes that's not easy because we haven't allowed a lot of people in our lives, but it's something that needs to be done, and if we understand, then we can do it better. We can correct any of the mishaps we may have had financially, and as well as prepare for our future and our financial priorities that were determined off your financial priority sheet. We'll be able to determine and work toward those cohesively.
When you get to Dave Ramsey's website, there's a number of forms, budget forms, that we would like for you to take a look at. Pick the one that seems to make sense to you. And again, they're sort of sequential, so you may want to look at a couple of them and see where you are budget-wise. And as Dave says, you're more than welcome to use them. Just don't sell them, and you'll still be friends.
A lot of good information on if they do have questions on any of the things, how to look for insurance.
Real estate.
You can actually do the classes online. We have found that a lot of people do enjoy that. However, we've also found that people will often repeat the Financial Peace University classes, not so much for the information, although it always helps. John and I learn something every time we work through the program again, but it's also for the camaraderie and the support of the group. It's being there every week and knowing that we are making changes, because sometimes it's not easy, as we all know, to change certain behaviors, and having that support group. So there's the forms, there's videos you can watch, you can listen to his radio talk show online, just lots of great opportunities for him.
Financial calculators, if you want to know how long it's going to take to pay off a particular bill, or
Or save.
or save for something and pay cash.
All of those things.
So with all of that, we just ask for God's blessing on your marriage. We know that you will know deep in your heart if the person that you're sitting by is the one that God has meant for you. We trust that that person is, and you will value them and cherish them as God treats you. Just treat them that way, and you'll be good.